The encounter. The desolate planet stretched endlessly in every direction, a barren wasteland of red sands and jagged black rocks. Alex stumbled over uneven ground, the weight of their oxygen pack and broken communicator making every step harder. Their spaceship, once a symbol of hope and exploration, was now a crumpled heap of metal smoking in the distance. "Just keep moving," Alex muttered to themselves, voice shaky but determined. The eerie silence of the planet felt like it was pressing down on them, heavier than the gear on their back. The sky above was a swirling mix of deep purples and dark blues, with two moons casting an unsettling glow on the alien landscape. Alex's mission had been simple: survey an uncharted planet for mineral resources. But a sudden, violent storm had dragged their ship off course and sent it crashing down. Now, survival was their only mission. The communicator crackled faintly in Alex's hand, a painful reminder of how alone they were. Every attempt to send a distress signal had failed. The storm seemed to block all transmissions. With no other choice, Alex had decided to head toward the distant cliffs in search of shelter. At least there, they could escape the cold winds that howled across the plains. As Alex approached the cliffs, an unsettling sensation crept over them, like being watched. They glanced around, but the emptiness of the terrain offered no clues. Still, the feeling persisted, gnawing at the edges of their mind. A sudden sound, soft but distinct, made Alex freeze. It was like a low growl, faint but unmistakable. Their heartbeat quickened as they scanned the area. The growl came again, closer this time, and Alex realized it wasn't the wind. "Hello," Alex called out, their voice echoing faintly. "Is someone there?" Silence answered, but then, from the shadows of the cliffs, a figure emerged. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like polished metal under the twin moons. Its eyes glowed faintly, a piercing blue that seemed to look straight through Alex. The creature's body was covered in intricate armor that looked more organic than mechanical, with jagged edges and patterns that pulsed faintly with light. Alex took an instinctive step back, their legs trembling. They fumbled for the small utility knife strapped to their belt, though they knew it would be useless against something this powerful. The alien warrior tilted its head, studying Alex with an almost curious expression. It made no move to attack, but its sheer presence was enough to keep Alex rooted in place. Finally, it spoke, its voice deep and resonant, like the rumble of distant thunder. The words were in an unfamiliar language, harsh and guttural. But as it continued to speak, something strange happened. The words began to shift, morphing into something Alex could understand. "Do not fear, human," it said, its tone strangely gentle despite its intimidating form. Alex's grip on the knife tightened. What do you want?" They stammered, their voice barely above a whisper. The alien warrior stepped closer, its movements slow and deliberate. As though trying not to startle Alex, it stopped just a few feet away, towering over them. For a moment, it simply looked at Alex, as though searching for something. "You are my world now, human," it said softly. The words sent a chill down Alex's spine. They didn't understand what the alien meant, but there was something in its tone, an unsettling mix of possession and sadness. What does that mean?" Alex asked, their voice shaking. The alien didn't answer. Instead, it turned its head sharply, as though sensing something in the distance. Without warning, it grabbed Alex by the arm, not harshly, but firmly, and pulled them toward the cliffs. "Wait, what are you doing?" Alex protested, struggling against the alien's grip. "Danger," the alien said simply. "Follow." Before Alex could argue further, they heard it, a guttural roar that seemed to shake the ground beneath their feet. It was coming from the direction of the wrecked spaceship. Alex turned their head just in time to see a massive shadow moving across the plains, its form obscured but undeniably monstrous. Panic surged through Alex as the alien warrior pulled them into the shadow of the cliffs. It guided them into a narrow cave, its glowing eyes scanning the darkness before motioning for Alex to stay quiet. The roar echoed again, louder this time, and Alex pressed themselves against the cold stone wall, trying to steady their breathing. The alien warrior crouched near the cave entrance, watching the plains with an intensity that made Alex shiver. It was clear this being had seen dangers far greater than anything Alex could imagine. Minutes passed in tense silence. The roars grew distant, and eventually, the ground stopped trembling. The alien warrior finally turned to Alex, its glowing eyes softer now. "You are safe," it said. "For now." Alex stared at the alien, heart pounding. They didn't know what to say or how to feel. Fear, confusion, and a flicker of gratitude all swirled inside them. What are you?" Alex finally managed to ask. The alien warrior looked at Alex for a long moment before answering. "I am Zarnuk," it said, "and you, human, are not alone." The words lingered in the air, filling the cave with an unexpected warmth. Alex didn't know if they could trust Zarnuk, but one thing was clear: their survival now depended on this alien warrior. Uneasy allies. Alex sat at the edge of the cave, staring out into the endless red sands, lit dimly by the twin moons overhead. Their fingers absently toyed with a shard of metal from their crashed ship, the only reminder of the life they'd left behind. Every so often, they glanced toward Zarnuk, who stood like a silent sentinel at the mouth of the cave, his glowing blue eyes fixed on the horizon. "You're not much of a talker, are you?" Alex said, their voice laced with nervous energy. Zarnuk didn't respond. He remained as still as a statue, the alien armor on his body pulsing faintly, as though alive. The silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Alex wasn't sure whether to be grateful or unnerved by his presence. Finally, unable to stand the quiet any longer, Alex spoke again. "You saved me back there. From whatever that thing was. So, thanks." Zarnuk turned his head slightly, just enough for Alex to catch a glimpse of his face. His expression was unreadable, but his voice, deep and measured, broke the tension. "You are not safe yet, human. Gratitude is premature." Alex frowned. "Right. Noted." Zarnuk stepped closer, the ground seeming to tremble faintly beneath his weight. He crouched near Alex, his towering form now less imposing but still unsettling. He reached out, and Alex instinctively flinched, but all Zarnuk did was take the metal shard from their hands. He studied it for a moment before speaking. "This is your ship," he said, his tone devoid of question. Alex nodded. "Was my ship. It's scrap metal now. Not much use to anyone." Zarnuk's glowing eyes met Alex. "Your ship is the reason you are alive. Do not dishonor it." The statement caught Alex off guard. There was a weight to Zarnuk's words, a depth they couldn't quite grasp. Before they could respond, Zarnuk stood abruptly and motioned for Alex to follow. "Where are we going?" Alex asked, hesitating. "The creature that hunted you will return," Zarnuk said. "We must move." Alex scrambled to their feet, their body aching from the crash and the trek across the barren terrain. "Move where? There's nothing out here but sand and rocks." Zarnuk didn't answer. Instead, he began walking, his long strides carrying him quickly over the uneven ground. Alex had no choice but to follow, their mind racing with questions. As they walked, Alex found themselves struggling to keep up. The terrain grew more treacherous, the rocks sharper and the slopes steeper. Zarnuk moved with an ease that made Alex feel painfully human. "You could at least tell me where we're going," Alex said, panting as they climbed a rocky incline. Zarnuk glanced back, his expression unreadable. "To a place of safety, if it still exists." "If?" Alex repeated, a note of panic creeping into their voice. "That's not exactly reassuring." Zarnuk stopped suddenly, and Alex nearly bumped into him. The alien warrior turned, his piercing gaze locking onto Alex. Reassurance will not keep you alive, human. Caution will. Before Alex could respond, a low rumble echoed across the landscape. Zarnak's body tensed, his hand reaching for a blade that seemed to materialize from the armor on his arm. Alex's stomach dropped as they realized the sound was coming from behind them. "Is it that thing again?" Alex whispered. Zarnak didn't answer. Instead, he pushed Alex behind a jagged rock formation and drew his blade, its edge glowing faintly. He stood at the ready, his posture radiating calm confidence, but Alex could see the tightness in his jaw, the flicker of something like urgency in his glowing eyes. The rumble grew louder, joined by a sound that made Alex's blood run cold, a guttural, bone-chilling snarl. From the darkness emerged a creature unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Its body was massive, covered in thick, armor-like scales that shimmered in the moonlight, 6 glowing yellow eyes fixed on them, and its maw opened to reveal rows of jagged teeth. "Stay down," Zarnak ordered without looking back. The creature lunged, and the world seemed to explode into chaos. Zarnak moved with inhuman speed, meeting the beast head-on. His blade clashed against the creature's scales, sparks flying with every strike. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the two titans battled, the air filled with the sound of snarls and the hum of Zarnak's weapon. Alex pressed themselves against the rock, heart pounding. They wanted to run, but where? The planet offered no refuge, and leaving Zarnak seemed like a death sentence. The fight was brutal and quick. Zarnak dodged a swipe of the creature's massive claws and drove his blade into its exposed neck. The beast let out a final, agonized roar before collapsing in a heap. For a moment, everything was still. Zarnak pulled his blade free and turned to Alex, his armor stained with the creature's dark blood. "We move," he said simply, offering no explanation, no comfort. Alex stared at him, their mind reeling. You just killed that thing." Like it was nothing. Zarnak didn't respond. Instead, he began walking again, his posture as calm and collected as ever. Alex hesitated, then followed, their thoughts a whirlwind of fear, awe, and confusion. As they walked, Alex couldn't help but ask the question that had been burning in their minds since the moment they met. "Why are you helping me?" Zarnak didn't stop, but his voice carried over the sound of the wind, low and unwavering. "Because you are not like the others." Alex frowned. "Others? What others?" Zarnak glanced back, his glowing eyes filled with a strange mix of sorrow and resolve. "The ones who destroyed this world." The words hit Alex like a punch to the gut. They wanted to ask more, to demand answers, but Zarnak's expression left no room for argument. The journey continued, the silence between them heavier than ever. Secrets of the planet. The silence of the alien wilderness was broken only by the crunch of Alex's boots against the jagged rocks and the soft hum emanating from Zarnak's armor. The two unlikely companions had been walking for hours, the twin moons overhead shifting positions, as if marking their progress. Alex's legs burned with exhaustion, but they refused to complain. Zarnak's towering figure strode ahead with an unnerving determination, his glowing blue eyes scanning the horizon. Every so often he'd pause, tilt his head slightly, and listen, as though the very air could betray hidden threats. "Where are we going this time?" Alex finally asked, their voice strained. They were too tired to care if the alien warrior snapped at them for asking. "To the bones of the old ones," Zarnak replied without turning. His voice was calm, but there was a weight to his words that made Alex's chest tighten. "Bones?" Alex echoed. "What do you mean?" "Like fossils." Zarnak stopped abruptly, and Alex nearly walked into him. The alien's head turned slightly, enough for Alex to catch a glimpse of his glowing eyes. "Not fossils," Zarnak said, his voice dropping into a near whisper. "Remnants of a great failure." Before Alex could ask what that meant, Zarnak started moving again, faster this time. Alex had no choice but to keep up, their curiosity outweighing their exhaustion. The terrain began to change as they approached their destination. The red sands gave way to strange crystalline formations that jutted out of the ground like jagged teeth. The air grew colder, and an unnatural stillness settled over the land. Even the wind seemed hesitant to disturb this place. Alex's breath caught in their throat when they saw it. A massive structure rising out of the ground, half buried in the sand and crystals. It wasn't a building or a ship, but something else entirely. Its surface was smooth and black, reflecting the moons like a dark mirror. Strange symbols were etched into its surface, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. "What is this?" Alex asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Zarnak approached the structure, his movements slow and deliberate, as though he were afraid to disturb something ancient and fragile. "This is what remains of the old ones," he said, "a fragment of their legacy." Alex stepped closer, their eyes wide as they took in the alien architecture. The symbols seemed to shift and writhe when they looked at them directly, as though alive. A faint hum filled the air, vibrating in Alex's chest. They'd reached out to touch the surface, but Zarnak's hand shot out, gripping their wrist firmly. "Do not touch it," he warned, his voice sharp. Alex pulled their hand back, heart racing. "Why? What is it?" Zarnak released their wrist and turned to face the structure. "This was once a beacon of knowledge," he said, his tone heavy with regret. "A place where my people and others like them sought to protect the fragile balance of this world. But it became something else. Something dangerous." Alex frowned, their curiosity burning brighter. "Dangerous how?" Zarnak didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer to the structure, placing his hand on a small circular panel near its base. The panel lit up under his touch, and the hum grew louder. Slowly, the structure began to respond, its surface shifting like liquid glass. A beam of light shot into the sky, and suddenly, the air around them was filled with flickering images. Alex gasped as the holograms came to life, displaying scenes of a thriving alien civilization. Towering cities made of shimmering crystals stretched toward the sky, their spires pulsing with light. Strange, elegant beings walked among them, their movements graceful and deliberate. But the images shifted, darkening. The cities crumbled, the skies filled with storms, and massive shadowy creatures tore through the land. What happened?" Alex asked, their voice trembling. Zarnak's shoulders sagged slightly, a rare crack in his stoic exterior. "Greed," he said simply. "The old ones sought power they could not control. They harnessed the energies of this planet, twisting them to their will. But the planet fought back." Alex felt a chill run down their spine. "The planet fought back." Zarnak nodded. "This world is alive, human. Its heart beats beneath us. Its mind stretches through every grain of sand. And when it was betrayed, it unleashed its fury." The holograms faded, leaving only the faint hum of the structure. Alex stared at Zarnak, their mind racing. "If this planet is alive, then why hasn't it, attacked us?" Zarnak turned to face Alex, his glowing eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and warning. "Because you are a fragment of what it once cherished, but even fragments can be shattered." The cryptic statement sent a shiver down Alex's spine. They wanted to ask more, to press Zarnak for answers, but something about the way he looked at them stopped them. There was a deep sadness in his gaze, a sorrow that seemed to span lifetimes. Before Alex could break the silence, Zarnak's head snapped toward the horizon. His body tensed, and his blade materialized from his armor. "We are not alone," he said, his voice low and urgent. Alex's heart pounded as they followed Zarnak's gaze. In the distance, shadows moved, their forms indistinct but unmistakably hostile. Whatever they were coming straight for the ancient ruins. Zarnak turned to Alex, his expression unreadable. "Stay close," he said. "And if you want to live, do exactly as I say." The air around them seemed to thicken, heavy with impending danger. Alex nodded, their pulse racing. The secrets of the planet would have to wait. For now, survival was all that mattered. The bond. The storm howled outside the narrow cave, its deafening roar punctuated by flashes of electric blue lightning. Alex huddled near the back, their arms wrapped tightly around their knees. The warmth of the fire Zarnak had conjured from a strange, glowing crystal did little to ease the chill in their bones, or their growing unease. Zarnak sat cross-legged near the entrance, his massive frame silhouetted against the flickering firelight. His armor pulsed faintly, the rhythm almost hypnotic. He hadn't said a word since they'd taken refuge here, his glowing blue eyes scanning the stormy horizon as though expecting the worst. "You can't keep doing this," Alex finally said, their voice breaking the tense silence. "Saving me, dragging me along, but never telling me what's going on." Zarnak didn't turn, but his voice, deep and calm, carried easily over the storm. "Survival requires no explanations." Alex frowned, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Maybe not for you, but I'm not. Whatever you are. I don't know this place. I don't understand these creatures, and I definitely don't understand you." This time, Zarnak turned. The firelight reflected off his metallic skin, making his expression harder to read. "What do you wish to understand, human?" he asked, his tone unreadable. Alex hesitated. They hadn't expected him to actually respond. "For starters," they said, mustering their courage, "why are you helping me? You could have left me to die a dozen times by now." Zarnak was silent for a long moment, his glowing eyes fixed on Alex. Finally, he spoke, his voice softer than before. "I have lost enough already." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, Alex saw something they hadn't noticed before: sorrow. It lingered in the way Zarnak's shoulders slumped ever so slightly, in the faint tightness around his eyes. What did you lose?" Alex asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Zarnak's gaze shifted to the fire, his expression distant. "My people," he said. "My world. They were taken by the same forces that now threaten yours." Alex's breath caught in their throat. "Your world? You mean this planet?" Zarnak shook his head. "No, my home was far from here. We were called to this place as protectors, sent to preserve its balance. But we were arrogant. We believed we could control the uncontrollable." His voice grew quieter. "We were wrong." Alex's curiosity battled with their fear. "The ruins we found, the ones you called the bones of the old ones, is that what happened? Your people tried to control the planet." Zarnak's jaw tightened, and for a moment, Alex thought he wouldn't answer. But then he sighed, a sound so human it startled them. "We were deceived," he said. "The old ones sought power, and we were their enforcers. By the time we realized the truth, it was too late. The planet's wrath consumed them. And us." The storm outside seemed to grow quieter, as though the planet itself were listening. Alex leaned forward, their fear giving way to something else: empathy. "How did you survive?" they asked. Zarnak's gaze turned back to Alex, his glowing eyes filled with a pain that seemed endless. "I didn't," he said. "Not entirely." The cryptic response sent a chill down Alex's spine. "What does that mean?" Zarnak rose to his feet, his towering form casting long shadows on the cave walls. "It means my purpose is not yet complete," he said. "And now neither is yours." Alex blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I'm just a stranded pilot trying not to get eaten." Zarnak stepped closer, his voice steady but firm. "You are more than that, human. This planet sees you as a part of itself, a remnant of what was lost. That is why it has not destroyed you. But its patience is not infinite." Alex felt a lump form in their throat. What do you mean by that?" Zarnak knelt before them, his glowing eyes locking onto theirs. "This world does not forget. It does not forgive. And if we fail to stop what is coming, it will destroy us both. The storm outside roared again, but Alex barely noticed. Their mind raced with questions, fears, and a growing realization. They were in over their head. But as they looked into Zarnak's eyes, they saw something else, a flicker of hope, fragile but unyielding. "What do I have to do?" Alex asked, their voice trembling but resolute. Zarnak placed a hand on their shoulder, the weight of it both grounding and reassuring. "You must trust me," he said. "And when the time comes, you must choose." "Choose what?" Alex pressed. Zarnak's gaze darkened, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Whether to save this world, or yourself." The words sent a shiver down Alex's spine, but there was no time to dwell on their meaning. A distant roar echoed through the storm, louder than the wind and unmistakably close. Zarnak rose swiftly, his blade materializing from his armor. "The storm has hidden us long enough," he said. "They are coming." Alex scrambled to their feet, adrenaline surging through their veins. "Who's coming?" Zarnak didn't answer. Instead, he stepped toward the cave entrance, his massive form blocking the dim light of the storm. He glanced back, his voice calm but commanding. "Stay close, human. And remember, your choices matter more than you know." With that, he stepped out into the storm, leaving Alex with no choice but to follow. Betrayal and revelation. The air shimmered with heat and tension as Alex crouched behind a jagged boulder, their heart pounding against their ribcage. Zarnak stood a few paces ahead, his massive frame illuminated by the pulsing blue light of an ancient console embedded in the ruins. The symbols on its surface seemed to shift and writhe, alive in a way that defied explanation. "I don't like this," Alex whispered, their voice barely audible over the faint hum emanating from the console. "This place feels wrong." Zarnak didn't respond. His glowing blue eyes remained fixed on the console as his clawed fingers moved over its surface, activating panels and sequences Alex couldn't begin to understand. The structure around them groaned faintly, as though it were alive and aware of their intrusion. "You said this was dangerous," Alex continued, their voice tinged with frustration. "Why are we even here?" Zarnak finally turned, his expression unreadable. "Because the answers you seek lie here, and because the planet demands it." "The planet demands it," Alex repeated, exasperation and fear bubbling to the surface. "What does that even mean? You keep talking in riddles." Before Zarnak could respond, the console flared with sudden intensity, casting the room in an eerie blue glow. The shifting symbols coalesced into a holographic image, a vast city, shimmering with crystalline towers that reached toward the sky. It was breathtakingly beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it, something too perfect, too cold. Alex stepped closer, drawn despite their unease. "Is this what the planet used to be?" Zarnak nodded, his voice low and somber. "This was the pinnacle of their civilization. The old ones believed they had mastered the energies of this world. They thought themselves invincible." The image shifted, showing the city darkening as storms gathered overhead. Massive machines, bristling with power, rose from the ground, their cores glowing with the same energy that pulsed through the ruins. The scene grew chaotic. Explosions, roaring winds, and shadowy figures fleeing for their lives. Alex's stomach churned. What happened to them? Zarnak's jaw tightened. They betrayed the planet. They took too much, pushed too far. And the planet fought back. The hologram changed again, this time showing monstrous creatures emerging from the shadows. Beasts made of stone and energy, their forms shifting and fluid. They tore through the city with terrifying precision, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Alex's legs felt weak. Those things. They're still out there, aren't they? Zarnak nodded grimly. The planet created them as its guardians. But now, they obey no one. Not even the world they were made to protect. Alex took a step back, their breathing shallow. "Why are you showing me this? What does any of this have to do with me?" Zarnak hesitated, his glowing eyes searching Alex's face. "Because you are part of this legacy," he said finally. "The Old Ones were not just the planet's inhabitants. They were your ancestors." The words hit Alex like a physical blow. "What? That's impossible. I'm human. My ancestors are from Earth, not here." Zarnak shook his head. "The distinction is not as clear as you think. Long ago, some of the Old Ones fled this world, taking fragments of its power with them. They sought to escape the planet's wrath, but their connection to this place remains." Alex felt a wave of nausea. "You're saying, I'm connected to this planet. That's why it hasn't killed me." "Yes," Zarnak said. "The planet sees you as a fragment of what it once cherished, but that does not mean you are safe." Before Alex could process the revelation, the ground beneath their feet trembled violently. The console's glow dimmed, replaced by an ominous red light. A deep, guttural roar echoed through the ruins, sending a chill down Alex's spine. "What was that?" Alex asked, their voice shaking. Zarnak drew his blade, the weapon humming with energy. "It is the planet's will. It knows we are here." The tremors grew stronger, and cracks began to form in the walls of the ruin. Alex stumbled, grabbing onto a nearby pillar for support. "I thought you said the planet sees me as one of its own. Why would it attack us?" Zarnak didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked toward the console, then back to Alex. "Because you activated the beacon," he said, his voice grim. "You woke something that was meant to stay asleep." Alex's blood ran cold. "I didn't touch anything. You're the one, Woe." "Not intentionally," Zarnak interrupted. "But your presence here is enough. The planet recognizes your bloodline, but it also remembers the betrayal." The cracks in the walls widened, and a deafening roar filled the air as a massive shadow loomed in the distance. Alex's eyes widened in terror as one of the monstrous guardians from the hologram emerged, its glowing eyes locking onto them. Zarnak stepped in front of Alex, his blade raised. "Run," he ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. Alex hesitated. "What about you?" "I will hold it off," Zarnak said. "But you must find the core of this ruin. There is still a chance to make things right." Before Alex could argue, the Guardian lunged, its massive claws tearing through the air. Zarnak met it head-on, his blade clashing against its stone-like body with a burst of light. Alex turned and ran, their mind racing with fear, confusion, and a single thought. What does it mean to make things right? The final stand. The air inside the ancient ruin crackled with energy, a pulsating hum reverberating through the walls as Alex sprinted down a narrow corridor. The ground trembled with every distant roar of the monstrous guardian clashing with Zarnak. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling, but Alex barely noticed, their mind consumed by Zarnak's last command. "Find the core. Make things right." What does that even mean? Alex muttered, their voice trembling. Their hands clutched a faintly glowing shard of crystal Zarnak had slipped to them moments before the battle began. Why can't aliens ever be straightforward? The corridor opened into a massive chamber, and Alex came to an abrupt stop, their breath catching in their throat. In the center of the room stood a towering obelisk, its surface covered in the same shifting symbols that had been on the console earlier. The obelisk pulsed with light, each rhythm matching the tremors shaking the ruin. This had to be the core. Alex could feel it in their chest, as if the obelisk were calling to them. But as they stepped closer, the ground beneath them shook violently, and a deafening roar echoed through the chamber. "No, no, no," Alex whispered, spinning around. From the shadows emerged another guardian, its massive form blotting out the light from the glowing obelisk. This one was even larger than the one Zarnak had faced, its body wreathed in a crackling aura of energy. Alex stumbled backward, gripping the crystal shard tightly. They were no warrior, no chosen savior. They were just a stranded pilot trying to survive. The Guardian moved with terrifying speed, its glowing eyes locking onto Alex as it lunged. Alex barely managed to dive out of the way, landing hard on the cold stone floor. Pain shot through their side, but they scrambled to their feet, heart pounding. "Zarnak!" they shouted, their voice echoing uselessly in the vast chamber. "I could really use some help right now." The Guardian charged again, and this time Alex didn't have time to dodge. Just as the creature's massive claws were about to strike, the crystal shard in Alex's hand flared with a blinding light. The energy from the shard exploded outward, forming the shimmering barrier that deflected the Guardian's attack. Alex stared at the glowing shard in disbelief. "What the?" The Guardian roared in frustration, circling Alex as though searching for a weakness. The barrier flickered, and Alex could feel the shard growing hot in her hand. Whatever power it held, it wouldn't last long. The obelisk pulsed brighter, and a faint voice echoed in Alex's mind. Not Zarnak's, but something older, deeper, and far more alien. "Restore the balance. Complete the cycle." "What cycle?" Alex shouted, clutching the shard as the Guardian lunged again. The barrier flared weakly, barely holding against the attack. "I don't understand." The voice didn't answer. Instead, the symbols on the obelisk began to shift and glow, as if reacting to Alex's presence. In the corner of their vision, Alex noticed a circular panel at the base of the obelisk, eerily similar to the one Zarnak had used before. The shard in their hand pulsed, almost like it wanted to be placed there. "No way," Alex muttered, shaking their head. "I'm not getting any closer to that thing." The Guardian roared, charging again. This time, the barrier shattered under the force of the attack, sending Alex sprawling across the floor. The shard skittered out of their hand, coming to rest just inches from the obelisk. Alex groaned, their vision swimming as they struggled to get up. The Guardian loomed over them, its claws raised for a killing blow. Desperation surged through Alex, and they did the only thing they could think of. They dove for the shard. As their fingers closed around the crystal, Alex rolled toward the obelisk and slammed the shard into the circular panel. The instant it connected, the obelisk flared with blinding light, and the entire chamber shook violently. The Guardian let out a piercing roar, its body convulsing as streams of light erupted from the obelisk and wrapped around it like chains. The creature thrashed and clawed at the air, but the light held firm, pulling it toward the obelisk. Alex staggered to their feet, shielding their eyes from the intense glow. The voice in their mind returned, stronger this time. The balance must be restored. The price must be paid. "What price?" Alex shouted, panic rising in their chest. "What are you talking about?" The obelisk pulsed again, and Alex felt a sharp pain in their chest, as though something deep inside them was being pulled toward the light. They stumbled, clutching their chest, as the voice continued. "You are the link, the bridge. The cycle cannot continue without you." "No," Alex gasped, shaking their head. "There has to be another way." Before they could protest further, a deafening crash echoed through the chamber, and Zarnak appeared, his armor cracked and glowing faintly. His blade hummed with energy as he dispatched the last of the Guardian's thrashing limbs. "You found it," Zarnak said, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "Good. Good," Alex shouted. "The obelisk is trying to kill me." Zarnak stepped closer, his glowing eyes locking onto Alex. "It is not trying to kill you. It is trying to save everything." Alex shook their head, tears stinging their eyes. "I don't understand. What am I supposed to do?" Zarnak placed a hand on their shoulder, his grip firm but not unkind. "You must trust the planet," he said, "and trust yourself." The obelisk pulsed one final time, and Alex felt the light envelop them completely. Their last thought before everything went white was simple but undeniable. There's no turning back now. A new beginning. The world around Alex was blindingly bright, a kaleidoscope of shifting colors and light that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. They felt weightless, suspended in a space that was neither here nor there. The hum of the obelisk echoed in their ears, But it no longer sounded alien. Instead, it was warm, familiar, almost like a heartbeat. "Where am I?" Alex whispered, their voice swallowed by the light. "You are within the heart of the planet," the voice answered, resonating not just in their ears, but deep within their mind. "The cycle nears completion, but the choice remains yours." Alex blinked, trying to ground themselves in the surreal expanse. "Choice? What choice? I don't even know what's happening." The light around them shifted, condensing into shapes and forms. Suddenly, Alex stood in the ruins again, though it was no longer broken and desolate. The obelisk towered above them, shining with pristine energy. The air buzzed with life, and the ground was covered in vibrant plants that glowed faintly. This is what it used to be," Alex murmured, awestruck. The voice continued, calm and unwavering. "Yes, before the betrayal, before the balance was broken. This is the world as it was meant to be." Alex turned in a slow circle, taking in the beauty around them. But as they did, the scene shifted again. The lush landscape faded, replaced by the same desolation they'd seen upon their arrival. The obelisk was cracked and dark, the air heavy with despair. "This is the cost of failure," the voice said, its tone tinged with sorrow. "If the balance is not restored, the world will collapse entirely. Its guardians will consume everything." Alex clenched their fists, their heart pounding. "What do you want me to do? I'm not some kind of savior." "You are a fragment of what was lost," the voice replied. "Through you, the balance can be restored. But to do so, you must give of yourself." Alex froze. "Give of myself? What does that mean?" Before the voice could answer, another presence appeared. Zarnak stepped out of the light, his towering frame as imposing as ever. But his glowing blue eyes were softer now, filled with something Alex hadn't seen before. Understanding. "She's asking you to make a sacrifice," Zarnak said, his voice low. "To become part of this world. To anchor its heart." Alex stared at him, their breath catching in their throat. "Anchor? You mean I'd be stuck here forever?" Zarnak nodded. "Yes. Your essence would become one with the planet. Its survival would be tied to yours." Alex's legs felt weak. "But what about my life? My home? Everything I've worked for?" Zarnak stepped closer, placing a hand on their shoulder. "I cannot make this choice for you, human. But I can tell you this. Your life has already changed this planet. Your presence has given it hope. What you decide now will shape not just this world, but others beyond it." Alex's mind raced. They thought of the people they'd left behind, their dreams of exploration, the life they'd wanted to return to. But they also thought of Zarnak, the ruins, and the planet's desperate plea for survival. "I don't know if I can do this," Alex said, their voice trembling. Zarnak's grip on their shoulder tightened, grounding them. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it." Alex took a deep breath, their eyes meeting Zarnak's glowing gaze. "What happens if I say no?" The voice answered, somber and final. "The cycle will break. The guardians will consume what remains, and this world will die." Alex swallowed hard, their heart aching with the weight of the decision. Finally, they nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." The light around them flared, and the hum grew louder. Alex felt a warmth spread through their chest, a sensation both comforting and overwhelming. The obelisk shone brighter, and the desolation around them began to shift, replaced by vibrant colors and life. Zarnak stepped back, his expression unreadable. "You have chosen wisely." Alex looked at him, tears in their eyes. "What happens to you?" Zarnak's lips curved into the faintest smile. "My purpose is fulfilled. My people's failure is redeemed. I will rest now, as I was meant to." Before Alex could respond, the light consumed everything, and they felt themselves dissolving, their essence merging with the planet. It was not painful, but peaceful, like falling asleep under a warm sun. When Alex opened their eyes, they were no longer human, but something more. They felt the pulse of the planet, the life coursing through its veins. They could see the creatures that roamed its surface, feel the wind that whispered across its plains, hear the silent song of the obelisk. And in the distance, they saw Zarnak one last time, his form fading into the light. His voice echoed in their mind, steady and proud. "You are this world's guardian now, Alex. Protect it well." As Zarnak disappeared, Alex stood tall, the weight of their choice settling into something new. Purpose. The planet was alive again, its balance restored. And though Alex had lost one life, they had gained another, a life that would span centuries, dedicated to preserving the beauty and peace of this world. They were no longer just a stranded pilot. They were the heart of the planet, and they would never let it fall again.